This is a controversial idea amongst many lawyers, amongst some politicians, although looking at opinion polls, it seems like the British public is broadly in support of the idea of offshore processing. How do we fix that situation? Why is there such a distinction there between those different sectors and their opinions?
Well, partly it's because of the lack of information, frankly, in the public domain. Partly, again, because of government ministers and indeed people like your last speaker. If people look at what happened with the Australian policy, they are likely to be much deterred from it. Australia has not offshored, as it's called, anyone since 2014. But it has held on to its offshore facilities because it's been unable to shut them down, even though it's been trying since 2017 to do so. And it's been paying huge amounts of money, unfortunately, to do incredible amounts of cruelty to the relatively few people that it's offshored, while people have continued to arrive in Australia, including by boat, since it introduced the policy all those years ago.
Because, of course, when that policy was introduced, the Liberal Party government, as it was then under Tony Abbott, put forward a lot of communications saying that not a single boat arrived in the next year after that policy was introduced. Are you saying that that was the case, but then it started to break down? The system started to break down sort of shortly after that situation?
Actually, there's no evidence that the system of offshoring itself had led at any time to a reduction in people arriving by boats. People continued after it was introduced. Australia went to even further lengths of not offshoring people, but physically intercepting boats and forcing them back dangerously to unsafe places. And yes, that did deter some boats. I mean, there were some scandalous reports of apparent connection between Australia and indeed the boats, the smugglers themselves operating them to do this. Now, it's a whole scandal that Australia has largely been condemned for internationally and domestically, and not just by lawyers, by doctors, by many members of the public and many politicians of all political persuasions. And it's something that Australia is trying to abandon because it's done so much harm. While it's true, certain Australian politicians who have long defended the policy make great hay about persuading foolish people here, frankly, amongst our government to try and adopt it as some sort of cover to cover up for their shame.